Hello and welcome back to another EDH deck tech idea. Today we are taking a look at Baylen, the Haymaker. This 3 mana 4/3 Naya commander can be used in a lot of different ways because it has a lot of different activated abilities. But one thing is for sure, you will need a lot of tokens to activate those abilities. You can tap 2 untapped tokens to add 1 mana of any color, you can tap 3 untapped tokens and draw a card, or tap 4 untapped tokens to put 3 +1/+1 counters on it and it gains trample until end of turn. This first activated ability will help you to accelerate your game plan, the second one will make sure that you have enough gas in hand, and its third activated ability might be a game closer for you. But as I've mentioned earlier, one thing is for sure, we will need a lot of tokens in this deck. So we play cards like Tempt with Bunnies, a 3 mana sorcery which is a tempting offer card. So you can draw a card and create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token, and each opponent may do the same. If they do, for each opponent who does, you will draw a card and create a 1/1 rabbit creature token. You can also cast Awaken the Woods, a 2 green and X sorcery, and you create X 1/1 green forest dried land creature tokens. There's one very powerful thing to mention about Baylen, because tapping the untapped tokens is part of the cost, you don't care about summoning sickness. So if you create a lot of forest dryad land creature tokens, you can immediately use them into Baylen's ability to generate immediate value. You also play Fungal Sprouting, a 4 mana sorcery, put X 1/1 green suprolling creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. You want to fire off this sorcery as soon as you have accumulated a few +1/+1 counters on Baylen to make a huge army of suprolling tokens. You also play For the Common Good, a 1 green and double X sorcery, create X tokens that are copies of target token you control. Then tokens you control gain indestructible until your next turn, and you gain 1 life for each token you control. This powerful sorcery will help you to create even more tokens, will protect all of your tokens until your next turn, definitely keep that in mind when playing this card. And you can also gain a bunch of life back with this card. You also play Brightcap Badger, a 4 mana Badger Druid, and each fungus and suprolling you control has tap, add 1 green mana. And at the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 green suprolling creature token. As you have seen earlier with Fungal Sprouting, there is a little bit of a synergy with a lot of cards in this deck, and you can also cast its instant side, Fungus Frolic, for 3 mana to create 2 1/1 green suprolling creature tokens. To top this all off, we also play Tendershoot Dryad, a 5 mana 2/2 with Ascent, and at the beginning of each upkeep create a 1/1 green suprolling creature token. Suprollings you control get +2/+2 as long as you have the City's Blessing. Aside from Baylen, there are more creatures that we want to play in this deck. For example, Pharneas Ace Archer, a 2 mana 2/2 with Vigilance and Reach, and whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control that's a token or a rabbit. Then if creatures you control have total power 10 or greater, draw a card. This creature does it all for us, it pumps up our whole team, and we also get to draw additional cards. We play Jacked Rabbit, a 2 mana and X Ravenous creature, which means that this creature enters with X +1/+1 counters on it. If X is 5 or more, draw a card when it enters. Its basic stat line is 1/2, and when it attacks, create a number of 1/1 white rabbit creature tokens equal to Jacked Rabbit's power. We also play Kadira, Caller of the Small, a 3 mana 3/3 with Trample, and when it deals combat damage to a player, for each token you control, create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. From Modern Horizons, we definitely have to play Ocelot Pride, a 1 mana 1/1 with First Strike, Lifelink and Ascent, and at the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, create a 1/1 white cat creature token. Then if you have the City's Blessing, for each token you control that entered the battlefield this turn, create a token that's a copy of it. This powerful 1 mana creature can accelerate your board state within 1 turn. When it comes to a token deck, we definitely have to play Skewed Swarm, a 3 mana 1/1, and whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. If you control 6 or more lands, create a token that's a copy of Skewed Swarm instead. And we are sticking to the theme, so we play Warren Warleader, a 4 mana 4/4 with Offspring for 2, which means that if you pay the additional cost of 2 generic mana, you will get a 1/1 token copy of it when it enters. Furthermore, whenever you attack, choose 1. It is definitely worth mentioning that it isn't Warren Warleader that needs to attack, it just needs to be one of your creatures attacking, and you can create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token that's tapped and attacking, or attacking creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Due to the fact that we are a token stack, we definitely want to create even more tokens or also double the amount of tokens that we create. Powerful enchantments that can help us with that are, for example, Caretaker's Talent. This 3 mana enchantment class gets us additional card draw whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield under our control, but this ability triggers only once each turn. On level 2 it creates a token copy that's a copy of target token we control, and on level 4 creature tokens you control get +2/+2. We of course have to play Innkeeper's Talent, a 2 mana enchantment class, and on the first level, at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. The second level will grant your permanents with counters on them wall 1, and the third level is what we are most interested in, because if you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many of each of those counters on that permanent or player. This is not only very powerful for Baylen's third activated ability, but also because we play a few +1/+1 counter synergies in this deck. We also play Mondrag Glory Dominus, a 4 mana 4/4, and if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. For 1 generic and 2 white Phyrexian mana and sacrificing 2 other artifacts and or creatures, we would put an indestructible counter on Mondrag Glory Dominus. In addition to that we play Parallel Lives, a 4 mana enchantment, and if an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead. Primal Vigor, a 5 mana enchantment, and if 1 or more tokens would be created, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. Furthermore, if 1 or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature, twice that many +1/+1 counters are put on that creature instead. And when it comes to doubling effects, we definitely have to play Doubling Season, a 5 mana enchantment, and if an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead. If an effect would put 1 or more counters on a permanent you control, it puts twice that many of those counters on that permanent instead. Due to the fact that we are creating a bunch of tokens, we also play different ping effects. For example, War Leader's Call, a 3 mana enchantment, and creatures you control get +1/+1. Furthermore, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, War Leader's Call deals 1 damage to each opponent. We play the cheaper version, Impact Tremors, a 2 mana enchantment, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. Lastly, we play Perforos, God of the Forge, a 4 mana 6/5 indestructible, and as long as your devotion to red is less than 5, Perforos isn't a creature. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent, and it also has an activated ability which can be a nice overrun effect for you, because for 3 mana, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Due to the fact that we will create a huge board state, we also have to protect it, so we play Heroic Intervention, a 2 mana instant, permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. And with Bloomburrow we also got the white version of Heroic Intervention, Dawn's Truce, a 2 mana instant, and you can gift a card to an opponent, so you and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn. And if the gift was promised, permanents you control also gain indestructible until end of turn. Another protection spell which can also be used as an overrun effect is a Chroma's Will, a 4 mana instant, and choose 1. If you control a commander as you cast a spell, you may choose both. Either creatures you control gain flying, vigilance, and double strike until end of turn, or creatures you control gain lifelink, indestructible, and protection from all colors until end of turn. You want to win more? You get it. Jaheira, Friend of the Forest, a 3 mana 2/3, and tokens you control have tap at 1 green mana. Sure, with Baylen we can also make mana of any color, but for that we need to tap 2 untapped tokens, so Jaheira allows us to accelerate our game plan a little bit faster if we want to play into green spells. Due to the fact that we are going white, we play the classic overrun effects like Craterhoof Behemoth, an 8 mana 5/5 with haste, and when it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. We play the white version, Moonshaker Cavalry, an 8 mana 6/6 with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain flying and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. And last but not least, we play Cafar's Crusade, a 5 mana enchantment, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. With Cafar's Crusade, we can get out of hand really quickly as we create a bunch of tokens within our turn, so we not only rely on Baylen the Haymaker. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I would play in Baylen the Haymaker. Let me know down in the comments below which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I shall feature next, and then I would say see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.